Welcome to People Love Process. The rough sketch you see here, I've had taped up on my workstation for about, a little over 3 years. It's something I drew out while on a conference call with a client, and I've always wanted to fully realize it in a final form. So in this movie, I'm going to build it out and create a final brand mark design. I'll then do some color exploration, brand naming, type exploration, and walk you through how I approach a brand-centric project in order to help my clients embrace a visual direction that will help them grow their business and engage with their audience. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So once again, this is just a scanned-in thumbnail sketch. The original size is maybe 1.5 inches. And most of the time, I'll go ahead. You can actually, now that I see it, you can actually see part of the tape here where I had it taped to the front part of, I have a little shelf my monitor sits on. It was taped to that. And I've been staring at it for 3 years. It's been in front of me. I didn't want to file it and forget about it. And so now I've decided to turn it into this content. But I didn't bother redrawing it because with a sketch like this, I think this is good enough because the way we're going to build it is using geometric shapes in Illustrator like the ellipse tool and other methodology I'm going to walk you through. So think of this as this might be one of maybe 5, 6 directions that I do for any given client brand identity project. And I just want to walk you through how I build it. So it starts where it always starts in the drawing phase. I prefer analog. If you like drawing on your iPad, great, do that. I scan it in on my flatbed scanner. This is about 600 ppi. Place it on this layer. And because this isn't my normal kind of line drawing type refined sketch, the value I tend to use is a little more rather than 15 to 20. I want it enough that I can see it, but I don't want it too dark to impede my building. So we'll set it around 25, lock the layer, and this is what I'm going to build on. Now, this is actually, for the most part, how my file starts when I'm creating, especially the first design. And unless there's other projects I've done that directions weren't used and it's appropriate for a new client, that I could possibly reuse or recycle my old artwork that is just sitting on my hard drive. I usually don't have any other layers, but in this case, we're just building one out, and this is my layer structure. Now, actually, I should point out, because it'll come into play a little bit later as I start figuring out what I'm going to colorize this, once I have it built, is that I have a new document set up for Illustrator. Every time you go to File and you go New, it's using whatever you've established as your new document file. And that can be found within the substructure of the app in a folder. I also, I've gone in there and I've added all of these custom colors here. So these are always in my new document setup for every new file I create. By default, they're all global colors. You can see the bottom right-hand corner is that white triangle that denotes a global color. And these aren't final colors, meaning they're going to be the exact colors I'm going to use. It gives me a starting point so I don't have to recreate the wheel and recreate swatches. And I'm always adding to this. Originally, I didn't have this many, but over the years, I've done other projects where I like the color and it gave me a good jumping off point. So I just wanted to point that out. So we're going to go ahead and build this. And the first thing we're going to do is go to the ellipse tool. And I usually have these pulled out like this. So if you go over here, you can access the same information, but you'd have to go to a submenu on the tool palette. It's just easier to grab this side and just kind of bring these out here so they're always open. And that's what I do on my build station. I have more pulled out for some plugins as well, but I don't want to clutter the visual aesthetic of my videos, so I'm not going to do that. But all we're going to do, and by the way, I should point out my graphic styles, this is also part of my new document profile, is I have, this is like 1 point, 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, then I have a dotted line and a dash line. These are always loaded in. So once again, I don't have to recreate the wheel. So I'm going to probably build this at 0.75. So I'll click on this. We'll go to the ellipse tool, and I'm just going to create a circular shape like this. We'll go to a line, and I'll just kind of align it center to my document. Let's go ahead and zoom in because I have decided on this one. I'm not going to make this kind of pill shape in the background. I was thinking a foot. I'm not going to handle it that way. I'm going to handle it a little bit different. I want it to be a circular motif that the bird is sitting in. So that's what I'm paying attention to the most in regards to building this. I'm just going to size this down. I want it a little smaller, I think. Something right about there, like that. I think that'll work. Once again, it doesn't align to my drawing. That's okay. We're going for nice geometry here, not being restricted by how I might have originally drawn it. Usually when I have a shape like this, instead of creating a new one, I'll just go ahead and clone this, Command-C, Command-F. We'll create his eye shape. And we'll bring it up here. I think somewhere right around there's pretty good. I might want to go a little big. Well, no, that's probably going to work. Yeah, I think I'll just keep it that way. I might move it this way a little bit, like that. We'll clone it again to get the pupil of the eye. Kind of like that. And we'll clone it again because this little highlight on his eye, all these are circular shapes. Something like that. I might, this is the thing, you used to be able to grab these center nodes, but this is one thing about Illustrator that frustrates me. It's like, I just want to grab that and scale it down from that side, but I can't. It wants to snap. And so if I turn snapping off, you can see you can grab from this point here. But Illustrator changed something, I forget how many versions back, where the bounding box, you used to grab these center nodes here from any zoom ratio. Now you have to zoom in, which is one extra step. It really shouldn't be that hard to do that. And I like to grab those and just reduce size like that. So it's unfortunate you always have to zoom in so far to select things. It kind of makes the process go a bit slower. So all we're going to do now is we're going to start building the other elements. Now that I have the eye, I'm going to go ahead and clone it. Anytime I say clone, by the way, just think Command-C, Command-F, which is copy and paste in front. We want to get this curve, but I don't want this curve to go right into the top of where the top of this shape would be. I want this to actually be larger. So we'll go something like that. And probably something close to like that shape. I'm going to clone this again. And this is where I like to use, once again, I show you the way I work. Some of the things that I do, you just can't do in Illustrator because I don't want this to be a circle anymore. I want it to be kind of a scale shape where it's circular on this side and flat on this side. And this is where I really love the Dynamic Corners tool by Astute because it can see a curve and go, yes, that's a curve, but it doesn't have to be. We can remove those curves and all of a sudden you have a shape like this. So I can get the top part of this head if I just bring it out like that. All we're doing now is we're just thinking in shapes. And we're going to go ahead and work out all the forms. I'm going to take this. I like to repeat geometry from one part of a design to another part of design. And I'm going to just take a copy of this shape. And I'm going to go over here, and we're going to use this for the angle that kind of swoops into the back tail. So I think something right about, I don't know, like right about there's okay. Like that. Now, what I want to do, and this is the tricky part in Illustrator, because the only way you can do this natively in Illustrator is you have to eyeball it. And anytime you eyeball it, you're never going to get it absolutely on spot in terms of geometry. Sometimes you can, but it's really hard. And this is a tool that I've been using since day one from Astute Graphics. It's one of their plugins called Subscribe. And this tool is this one right here. These are the Subscribe tools, these 4 tools in the toolbar. But what we're going to focus on is this tangent line tool. So what is this? Well, a tangent, if you look at any circle, think of a clock. You have 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. Those are tangents. That's the tangent for this shape. So if I select this tool, but it doesn't just align with this. Yes, that's a tangent for 90 degrees. But what if we want to draw a line from this side here to this side here on this circle? Well, those are tangents too, but to do it, you just have to eyeball it using like the line tool, and you come over and have Smart Guides turned on, Command U, of course, so you can snap on this, and then you'd have to just kind of figure out where to place that. And it might not be perfect. It might be close, but you're going to be eyeballing it. So I don't like to eyeball it. I like to use a plugin where I can just click here and it says, okay, somewhere on this curve's a tangent. You want to go up to this one? Well, it snaps to where that tangent would be on the other one. I click it. It establishes that line. So it's completed the task for me. So I usually grab the pen tool and I'll just flesh out a whole shape right now like this. Let's see. I'm trying to think in shapes here. Okay, we'll go ahead and close that. So that is that angle and tangent from that curve to that curve, which is pretty cool that you can do that type of thing. Now, the design I'm doing, these are all going to be lines. And then we're going to expand them and then fuse them together to shapes to create the negative shapes and the positive shapes that we're going to use in this design. So not everything I'm showing you, I'm not, well, it's just easier. Just stick with me. It'll make sense as I go along. So we're going to take this curve and do the same thing over here using the same tool where I'm not even sure where the tangent is. So I'll just click here and this plugin figures that out on its own. So it's right there. So that's how it goes from this curve for part of the beak down here like that. That's fine. And we'll go ahead and close that shape as well. We'll do this. So roughly, if you just think of these lines here, I have all the shapes to make up the shape of the bird. That's all I want. Now, this is the part where kind of dissecting the design is going to help. So I have this that makes up that, and I have this that makes up the back here. That's fine. We're going to actually unite those. So let's go to the Pathfinder. We'll pull that out up here, and we'll just unite them like this, just so we can see what we're doing. Let's go ahead and color this blue instead of the magenta. So you can see we have that part going. That's fine. Some of this is like you have to go 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. So we're going to go ahead and add some anchors here like this, because I want to snap it to where that tangent is here, like that. And we'll use this, bring it to front, which once again is a keyboard shortcut. Otherwise, you'd have to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. I just hit F5. Makes the whole process. Once again, if you're not using keyboard shortcuts, your workflow is taking too long, in my opinion. So we're going to do that. I'm going to make a copy of this large kind of container shape we're going to use in this design, because we don't want to get rid of that, because it's going to make up the whole shape that kind of sits behind the bird. So we'll just clone it like that. I'm going to take this shape And I'm going to clone this shape. So with these two shapes selected, I'll go to the shape building tool, and then I'm going to hold Option down to minus that, like this, and I will minus this one, like that. Then we can take this shape. Oops, my bad. Let's go back here. We'll go to the scissor tool. Actually, no, we won't. We'll go here on this one, go back to the shape building tool, and I should have gotten rid of that, like that. So this shape goes all the way around, but we don't need it to, because if we zoom in here, this is where the tangent comes to. So if we go here and we select this shape with this outer shape still, we can go back to shape building tool, hold Option down, and accidentally there. So all I did is I cut it so it ended there. Put that back. And now I'll zoom in here. Actually, let's just do this because it'll be easier. Sometimes it can get confusing, so we're going to use colors to clarify. So green is everything we're working. We're kind of creating the butt of the bird of sorts with its feather, its back end going here. We're going to fuse those. Right now, they're two separate paths. I'll select these two, go to the shape building tool, hold Option down, and get rid of, oops, get rid of that. Let's go ahead and bring this to the front. Select this and get rid of, well, that's weird. I don't know why that's doing that. We'll just do it another way. We'll do it the old-fashioned way before the shape building tool. We'll go to the scissor tool, snap on this anchor point, click, and now this part is no longer part of that. We can just delete it. So sometimes you'll have to do that. Every now and then the shape building tool can get a little wonky. So we have the bottom part here. So if we select everything that's green, the tail, the base, like this, I'll group it, and then I'll double click into isolation mode, select these two handles, go Command J, that fuses them together like that. Then we'll go to the pen tool, and I'll just continue this shape like this to close that shape. Now, if I go over to this part, yeah, that's what I thought. We have a redundant anchor point. This the other part. When you do shape building, you will run into these where it'll create a redundant anchor point that's piggybacking on top. In this case, it was on top of this one. So just slide it back on the path. Once it's on a straight path, you can just delete it and it won't ruin a curve. You wouldn't want to do it down here. If you select this and you go minus, it's not a smart remove. So Illustrator, unfortunately, on desktop doesn't have smart remove. If you use the iPad, they do have smart remove on the iPad. So I'm not sure why it's taken them so long to bring that to the desktop. That's like in every other vector app except Illustrator, ironically. Okay, so we have the top of the head, which is blue. We have the front part, or the breast of the bird, if you want to think of it that way, here. So all we're going to do is select the blue, select that, and we're going to go unite just so it becomes part. And these we don't even need now. We can just delete those. So now we have the blue top of the bird, the green bottom part of the bird. So we'll just select both and we'll go unite. So in terms of creating that outer shape, that's how I go about doing it. Now, most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm not trying to do running commentary as I'm building it, so it goes a lot faster. But that said, that's how I would approach that. Now, like I said, with that redundant point, you're going to run into that when you shape build. There's no way of getting around it. Even if you go to Pathfinder and you go to the option menu and you go to Pathfinder options, even if you have this check, which I do, remove redundant points, it's not going to remove them all. Some of them, the obvious ones, it does. Straight lines on, if you merge two squares to form a rectangle, it'll remove them. But on more complex shapes like this, for whatever reason, it's not smart enough to do it. So Those are the little finite details of an app that I wish Adobe would focus on more, but they don't. So that's why I use plugins. So is this fine, the shape we just created, or is there some inherent issues with redundant points? Well, there's no way to know. Illustrator doesn't tell you, but this plugin does. Right now, this has 16 points, Pathfinder. Notice this is lit up. If there's not redundant points, this won't be lit up. But if it lights up, so there's 16, if I click this, there was 3 redundant points and it removed it. But notice it doesn't destroy my art. That's why I love Astute Graphics. That's why I love using their plugins. They're just absolutely awesome. They're just awesome. They just work so well. So we're going to go here, and I want this angle here that I have established. So I'm just using the line tool to establish that angle like this. And then we're just going to go to scale, and I'll do 200 just to increase the size, match the thickness here. And I want to show you another tool that's kind of cool. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, let's put this over here. I'm going to make a copy. Oh, we have the shape still. Let's get rid of that. I'm going to make a copy of this circle. Command C, Command F. Oops, that's just the top edge of that circle. Oh, I have 2 of them. Okay. Clean up as you go along, otherwise your file will get sloppy. We'll make a copy of this now. And then I'm just going to, because it's already a circle, we're just going to scale it down like this. And all I'm doing is I'm kind of paying attention where this circle hits with the line in my sketch. So something right about there, because I want this to go up to here like this. But in terms of this line, I want that line perfect. So let's go like this. Oh, wow. I almost nailed it. That's pretty good. Let's just make sure it's dead on like that. And I'll cheat. I'll just select this and I'll scale it until it snaps. Now I'll go down to here and I'll just bring it up there. Okay, that worked. Let's go ahead and just use the scissor tool. I'll cut it here, cut it here. Once again, the old school methods still work. Old school. It's still digital. It's just they have other tools that do similar things like the shape building tool. Like that. So we'll go ahead and join those so it's one coherent path. And here's another thing that's kind of cool. We're going to extend this all the way up here, snap it there. Then we're going to continue it here, bring it all the way to this point and snap it like that. Now, if I wanted to round this corner, I could use the corner widget. By the way, all the rounding I show you, if you want to do it natively in Illustrator like this, you can. There's no problem with that whatsoever. Like that. Now, if you want it to look like that, that's fine. But sometimes I'm thinking on this design, notice how this is a little rounded here because I don't want it to come to a dagger sharp point. So I'm going to back this anchor off a little bit because I'm going to end up rounding this. So the actual end will come to right here. So it doesn't need to go all the way out. And at times, I might not want a perfect 90-degree curve. I might bring this down like this, and then you could round it so it goes into the shape more like that. That's fine. But in this case, I'm going to use Astute's rounding tool, and they have true radius, which is think 90-degree radius. But if one angle is 90 degrees, one angle is here, I like going to standard. And this takes into account both angles like that. And I just think it just looks a little nicer. It's more elegant in terms of its flow. So, but again, if you want to just use the standard, maybe you prefer it 90 degrees, then you can use this method, just using the corner widget. Whichever way you prefer is fine. So I just wanted to walk you through that. Next thing I want to do is I kind of want the wings to be the same. So we have this wing on the side, which is kind of folded down next to his body. This one, he's kind of pointing outward. And I want this line to hit right here. Even though my drawing has it down here, it's going to look better, I think, if I start it here and just bring this out so the angle comes out. And I think I'm going to go right about here. Even though I have this curved, I'm just going to keep this straight here. I think that'll work better. But what's going to establish that angle is I want, I'm struggling with trying to figure out how to explain this. I want this angle to be the same angle here. But I also want this size of this to be the same as the wing on the side. So I'm going to do this. And sometimes I do this, even though it might not be part of the final art per se, it's going to help me establish the tolerance I want to figure out. So I'm going to create a rectangle. We'll clone it. And I'll just take this, slide it down, snap it. Once again, I have Smart Guides turned on. Command U to snap like that. And on this bottom edge of this wing, I want that line as it curves down and goes over, I want it to terminate right at this point. So we can actually move these over, and you can see it's a little lower. But now that I have two, I have it right at top where it's right at the base of the eye. So I'm just, with both of these selected, I'll just snap it there. So now I've figured out the distance between those two things. That's all I was doing there. Once I have that, I can use this to build what I want. So I can go ahead, and I usually grab the scissor tool, and I just cut it because I want that line to remain. And then I'm going to cut it there. And then going over here, I'll go ahead and cut it here. We can get rid of that. Okay, we have that line. That's fine. This will terminate right into here. This one will just fuse to the bottom, so it will snap to that. This part here, go ahead and get rid of that. And I'll cut this off over here. I'll cut this here. I'm not sure where this angle will be, but we'll just cut it there. And I'll cut this one here. This is going to go into the front of the body. And on this one down here, now that I'm looking at it, okay, let's copy this, because I do want this to come all the way down here, because we're going to, unlike this one on the side, we're going to have three pieces on this. It doesn't follow with my sketch. That's okay. I'm making decisions based off of basically the geometry alone. I don't care about the sketch at this point. It's just guiding my general idea. And get rid of that. And we're just going to pull this out over here. I know the end will be right about there. Maybe not exactly there. But these will just snap right into that base of the bird's front chest. And notice how this doesn't snap. This is that snapping bug I mention every now and then. And why it doesn't snap, I don't know. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's an intermittent problem, but I kind of think it has something to do with zoom ratios. I don't know why, but I think that because if I zoom in most of the time and then try it, oh, in this case, it doesn't snap. So when it doesn't work, so how do I get this to snap? Well, I usually pull it away, deselect, reselect, drag it over, and then it will say, oh, okay, I'll work. Oh, see, then it moves a little bit. Now it'll work. So that's what I've been trying to get Adobe to fix for a decade. They still haven't. And it's a bit frustrating. So when you hear me say the snapping bug, I've demonstrated it for you. And by the way, I was in New Delhi, India in 2019 at an Adobe Max Summit. They invited me and 13 other creative people to come there and preview their roadmap for development. And they gave us engineers. They assigned us engineers, that is, so we could kind of pick their brain and say, what's frustrating you about Adobe? And I demonstrated this for them, and they all witnessed it. They all saw it happen. They go, yeah, that shouldn't be doing that. But they still haven't fixed it. So hopefully they will at some point. I believe in you, engineers, just, but you have to get it done. I think half the problem, though, is the ones above them who kind of call the shots. I'm going to add this here because we want to round this corner so it goes from this line out to the wing like that. Okay, now I need to figure out the angle of this wing. Well, the angle is going to match the back here. I want the back to be the same, so I'm just going to copy this. And then I'll just cut it here with the scissor tool, delete what I don't need. This gives me that angle like that. Now, you might be thinking, well, aren't you going to eyeball it? Because didn't you say you'd have to eyeball it? Well, yes, but I'm going to show you. I'm sorry that I'm showing you all these plugins, but it's just the way I work. It's like, once again, if you don't have this plugin, just know you're going to have to eyeball it. Now, if I had to eyeball this to snap it right to the tangent where the eye gets up, I'd zoom in really quick. I'd go into keyline mode so I can just see the outline. Then I just move it over and just figure out where does that slanted line touch, like somewhere right in there. And that's the only way you can do it natively in AI. So it's not precise. And all the math is here, so it should be a relatively easy thing. But for whatever reason, they haven't provided tools that do that. And that's why plugins exist. That's other companies see the need for that, and they develop it. And I'm glad they do because it gets frustrating at times. So the plugin is underneath the main selection tool. It's called the Collision Scribe plugin, and there's 3 tools. Snap to collision is the one I use most. Rotate to collision, I use sometimes, not always. This one, not so much. But this one, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So if I select this, now that I have that tool selected and I have this stroke selected, I can move it over and boom, there it is. Done. It's that easy. I know it's precise now. So you can see right where that magenta line shows up, and that's just really helpful. So I use that all the time. Now, if I want one thing, I keep forgetting to ask Astute to do this. Where it does place that magenta to show you the tangent, I wish there's a key command I could do and it would create an anchor there. It doesn't. And so that's one thing I think they could improve their plugin on. But we have everything we need. So all I'm going to do is just make sure to highlight just this handle, and I'll slide it down on the path. So when you have Smart Guides turned on, I can go down here, and right there, I think it's going to be fine. So that's how I would create and establish that angle. Now down here, I'm just going to go ahead and just cut this. We don't need this part down here, like that. And let's go ahead and zoom in on this. I'm going to bring this all the way up and snap it there. This, and we'll snap it there. We'll take these two. I'll join it. So I've joined it together. We'll take this. I guess we don't need this either. We can get rid of that. This terminating right into the tail. This will terminate to the back. Come on, please snap. Okay. Oh, so many minutes over the last decade I've lost because of sloppy development. Okay. Let's do this like that. And we'll bring this one over to there. Okay. So I think that's good. Now I'm going to take this, take the pin, click here because I want to extend this down because I'm going to put some curves on that as well, on this one and on this one here. So I'll select that and I'll add up going here because I want it to curve here. And then as it gets to the back here, I want it to curve. These two curves will probably be the same diameter. And on this one, I want a subtle curve. So I'll go down till it hits that anchor to create, this is almost like a lazy L type shape. And this one's the same. And this one, oh, that one I didn't have. Oh, let's do this. And didn't fuse to that. There we go. Okay. So once I have this, this is where I'll go back to, and again, if you want to use the corner radius here, you can. Everything I'm showing you is possible in terms of rounding with the corner widget that is in Illustrator. So you can select that anchor and you can round it out like that. That's fine. The only reason I don't use this tool a lot, and I use it for certain things, but in this case I wouldn't, because I don't know if I want these two the same. So it's not like I want to select both of them and round them at the same time. And I don't even like doing this because I have to kind of watch two things at once. I like to focus on what I want to do, go to the dynamic corners, and I don't even have to select a corner with dynamic corners. I just select the tool. It detects a corner, and then I can pull it out based off of the radius I want. And actually, I think that's going to work. And then if I like that, I can go to this one, and I can just go click, and it applies the same radius to that one. That's why I use it. I don't want the same radius here because it's a smaller kind of curve. So I'm just going to pull it out to right about there, like that. Now on the bottom, I like this. Let's say I go on and I do other work. I can come back to this, click this. It copies it to the tools. The tool recognizes what the radius is. It will give you this readout that says 18.383. I can go down to this one and apply it to this one as well. And boom, I have all those the way I want. Let's move over here, and this would be one that's a no-brainer. Since it's 90 degrees, we'll go ahead and use the tool to create that radius like that. Once again, we have the angle over here established, which is the same angle as the back here. So I'll go ahead and just create it with the line tool, bring it over here. It's a little smaller, increase it, use eyedropper, get it the same size. Then we'll put this into position like that. That looks fine. Then I'll slide this up on itself until I run into that. Slide this over. Select both corners, Command J to fuse those together. We'll take this one, we'll go Command J like that. So now we have all of those. This is where I'll go back here. Oh, Adobe. I wish an engineer would just be forced to watch me build sometimes and see me run into this, and they don't create with their software. That's why they don't know why this should be fixed. Okay, there we go. Now that we're zoomed in, it will behave the way it should. We're going to extend these up here because we do want to curve those. Do the same with this one. Let's go ahead and zoom out. And on these curves, we want it to match what we have in the other wing. So that's the kind of continuity you want to retain in your design. Like that. I think that looks pretty good. Might even be, I'm thinking maybe we make this a bit longer. I think his wing's a little short. Oops, don't need that one selected. So I'm just going to pull this out until we, I think it just needs to be a little longer. Something like, maybe even more. Something like that. Yeah, I think that looks better. So once again, that's one reason why I might at times redraw something more precisely. Now, all I need to do is I want to keep that same continuity going, meaning this gap I have here for each piece of the wing is the same from the wing on the side of the body, the wing pointing. And I want that same gap on these kind of areas of this mark. And so I want to copy that. So actually, we can get rid of that. I'll go here. We'll create some lines with the line tool like that. I'll clone it, Command-C, Command-F. Okay. Clone both of these. Get rid of that one. So now I have these 3 lines. Rotate them 90 degrees. We're going to snap here. This one we don't need, but this one will establish those 2 lines. So notice that these don't even really align exactly with my sketch at all. That's okay. We're going to use that to create that detail. So let's go ahead and just bring this up until it snaps right about there. And we'll bring this anchor down, and it doesn't want to behave again. There. See how sometimes it should snap all the time. I don't know why. Okay, let's do that. And we're going to go here. Okay, now this is the part, I'm saving this for last because hopefully I'll be able to communicate it in such a way you'll understand what I'm saying. So those are the vertical lines. Easy, super easy to create. Now, I want this to go in and curve into this shape of the bottom of the bird. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to make a copy of this bird shape. Actually, before we make a copy, let's just color this bird shape since it's final, this magenta color. Then I'll copy a shape, and then I'll make the copy of the shape green so we know we have that one there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut that and cut that. Select the part we don't need and delete it. So I've just created this curved line. And here's something you can do is a quick and dirty way. I can go ahead and just merge those 2 together and close the shape like this. Once I have it closed, I can go unite. Once it's united, I can select this part I don't need. And that's how you can get those all together. Now I can go back and go, this one I don't want, so I'll get rid of this line. So think of it as we create a J shape right there. And now this is going to allow us to go ahead and create a nice curve here. And this is where, once again, if you want to use the corner widget, you can. In this case, I'm going to use the plugin and use standard because it's going to take into consideration the 90 degree and this curved angle. And I'm just going to pull this out all the way. And now it just makes a nice, elegant flow from that right into the base. So hopefully that was somewhat understandable. Now, here's the thing that's, if you have an anchor point, whether you use a corner widget or a plugin for that matter, if I use a same copy of the same shape, it'll have this corner. So as I pull out, it'll stop as soon as it hits a corner. So how do you get beyond that? Well, I'm going to go to my original circle shape behind everything, and I'm going to go ahead and clone that, Command-C, Command-F. We'll go ahead and colorize it green. And because it's a circle, all I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it until that anchor point is out of my way, like that. And then I'll grab the scissor tool again, and I'll cut it somewhere here. I'll cut this here. We can select the part we don't need, get rid of it, and then I'll do the same thing where I'll close this shape, connect those 2 sides. This one, I might just do that, close it. Then I'll go up to Pathfinder Unite, select the part we don't need, get rid of it, go back to the scissor tool, cut here because we don't need this line. And now we have, again, another J shape. And we can go back to the rounding, the dynamic corners plugin here. And I can take this, and this one, I'll just make a call where, actually, that looks really, really good. So there, boom. So we have all of our line work done now. Now it's usually at this point, I'll select everything and I'll just make sure everything's the same color like that. So we have the structure in place. This circle though, I'll always keep copies. And this is why in my build file, I have an X file, because knowing that this is all kind of the base vector art, I'll select everything, copy it, Command C, Command F, then I'll group it. So you can see I've just grouped everything. And then I'll just move this to the X layer. So it's a junk file. I can always go back. And I do that because some elements, I want to retain this circle as I'm building because I might need it later. So what I like to do is I'll take this body, I'll take this circle, we'll go to the shape building tool, and I'm just going to hold Option down, and oops, didn't mean to do that, like that. And notice how it does this. This is the beauty of Illustrator. It's not smart enough to know you don't want all those extra anchor points. So unfortunately, I would just take this circle like this, and I would just cut it here, and I go down here until it snaps to that anchor path. Let's zoom in, make sure we're right dead on with that anchor right here. And I'd hit it like that. That way, everything else, actually, you can see the other shape is behind. So we're going to have to zoom out. And if I go ahead and select these two, we'll deselect the shape of the bird. We just want this outer shape. Get rid of it. So it's just that. That's what we actually want. And this is where I'll zoom in here like this. Select the bird body, select that, and then use the shape building tool. And then we can avoid the mess with all those extra anchor points. It's kind of frustrating that they can't, they pump up Sensei and machine learning. It's like, okay, well, start applying it to some of these functionalities that creatives use every day. Like your app should be smart enough to know if it doesn't need more anchor points, it shouldn't add them, but who knows? So this is how I get the base artwork. And it's usually at this point, I want to figure out for this design, what weight I want this artwork at. So this is where I'll just make a copy of this layer. So in my build file for any given project, I have different layers for different stages of my creative process. So I can always go back. Now, I didn't originally start doing that. I never did that. It was only when I started kind of sharing my creative process, I'm going, well, I kind of want to save this so I can explain things as I go along. And so it got me in the habit of just saving everything. And now I prefer it that way because I always go back and recycle stuff if I can that's never used for a client, for example. So all we're going to do here is duplicate this layer. I always try to name my layers as I'm going along. So this one, we're going to figure out the weight of these strokes. We can turn off our sketch at this point. And this here isn't going to be an outline at all. It's the only part that won't be an outline. This will just be a fill. So we'll get rid of the stroke. And like that, we'll select this inner shape. This is just going to no stroke. This will just be white. So those are the only two filled shapes in this entire design. Everything else, we're going to select it, deselect the center part of the eye, and we're going to go to strokes. And I want to beef this up. And I think I want to do, I don't know, maybe 6. Let's see what that looks like. I could go even more. Let's go 10. No. Oh, I just noticed an error. Okay, and this is, I think it's an error. We'll see. this might have a redundant anchor point. Let's select this. No. That looks a little odd. Maybe it's just a preview. No, see how it's kind of jogging out there? That might be a preview because my path looks clean. Oh, wait a minute. This might be causing it. Oh, it wasn't perfectly redundant, but it was an extra handle. So I think because this is on a straight line, we can remove it without screwing up our artwork. Now if we go, okay, that fixed it. So those are the little things I kind of pay attention to as I build my artwork. And you can see how this comes to a dagger point, like this guy's going to peck out your eye or something. We don't want that. Now you can see we have this little artifact that's going to show up just be ever so slightly right here. You can see a little bump. That's this. I believe that's this. Let's, once again, maybe we have another. No. Okay, maybe that's just screen res. We'll address it if it comes into play later on. 9 or 10. Yeah, I think I like that. So I'll stick with that. That's fine. Now, the next phase is, this is where you want to, well, we want to expand this. But in order to explain this, it's going to take a little time, but hopefully you're with me. So just stick with me. Let's go ahead. I'm going to make another copy here. And we'll go ahead and duplicate this. And for lack of a better, we'll eventually use this for coloring. So let's just call it coloring like this. Now, all of these are strokes. What's given it volume is just the size of the stroke we created. If we go to keyline view, by the way, that's Command Y, you can see they're just strokes. Nothing is shapes other than the central part of the eye. So all we're going to do here, so we're going to select everything. Don't need the middle part of the eye. And we're going to go to Object. We're going to go to Path. And we're going to go to Outline Stroke. It will take everything that's a stroke and turn it into a shape. So that's good. But I'm going to do some weird coloring here for no other reason than to explain something. And we'll color this one. I think we'll need to focus on that. We'll go over here. We'll color this. These might come into play. Not so much there. Well, these might too. Okay. Okay. So if I just took everything, well, let's just do it, and then I'll undo it and tell you why. If I just decide, okay, everything's a shape now, I can just fuse it together with Unite. Well, technically, yes. But it's going to bring up that thing about Illustrator not being smart enough to know you don't want extra anchor points. So with all these selected, we only have 129 anchor points. Now, when you unite, it should create less anchor points. But if you unite like this, it's going to actually create more anchor points because Adobe Illustrator does this kind of crap. And that's the part it just frustrates me. But we're going to fix that. We're going to take this. And so what I want to do is I have to go in and edit stuff. And so normally when I'm walking you through a process on People Love Process channel, I don't spend all the time showing you this because I just explain it a little bit, but it's just craftsmanship. That's all it comes down to. So I've just made I'm going to make a copy of this shape. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to bring it, just kind of nudge it over a bit. We can color anything because I'm going to use that to cut that edge. So as it gets up here, it's not going to cause that problem. Then I'm going to take this shape like this. If we look where this is going to create redundant points right here. So all we're going to do, it's frustrating because it really shouldn't be this way and it doesn't have to be, but Adobe, once again, they don't use their software, so they don't know any better. Like that. This shape is fine because this will disappear once we merge. We're not going to, well, we might run into a little area there, so we'll go in here And that's all I'm going to do here is clean this up. And I might speed this up in the final version. It just depends. This goes into here, so we'll clean this up. We'll go like that just to cut that off. That's fine. That's fine. Over here, these are going to cause problems, so I'm just going to go like this. And so you can see it. We'll make a copy, select that. Minus front, select this. Minus front. Those will be fine. Those will be fine. These will cause problems down here. So we just have to lop off part of that down here on that one. Goes up is fine. What about this? Yeah, this one we need to do too. Sometimes a circular shape is the best. And we'll lop that one off. Go down here. This side needs to be done on the wing that's next to his body. Make a copy of that. Select this. Chop that. Chop that. So you can see how this is kind of redundant. Now this is fine. We'll go into here and fuse. This is going to kind of cause some problems here, especially here. It'll add a redundant point, I think. So I would probably go into this shape like this, like that. Then take this and then cut it like that. Well, that made it kind of weird. We'll take that and delete it. This is going to cause an issue down here, but you know what? I can fix that after we fuse stuff together. This is fine up here. These aren't. These need to be addressed, so we'll cut off the bottom of these. So all the building I'm doing now is what I call just throwaway shapes. We're not using them other than to edit the shapes we've established. So that'll trim that one. We'll trim this one as it goes up here. That's fine. That's fine. I think we have everything covered now. I'm just reviewing just to make sure. Okay. I think we have everything covered. So you probably remember seeing this in another video where I colored things differently. And let's go ahead and color this one so you can see it. So all of these shapes are independent shapes now. All I'm going to do is this is where, and it's at this point, I might even go ahead and select this just in case I want to undo it and try something else. And we'll clone it. I'll group it, and again, I'll move it to my X layer as I'm building. So I've, years later after a project, I've gone back, opened up a build file for whatever it was, gone to the X layer, found an asset that I created amongst the process but didn't use it, and then it is able to use it on something else. So it's kind of like, I call it a vector junk drawer for lack of a more creative name. We're going to select all these. We won't select the inside the eye. And now we're just going to go unite like that. Notice over here, we have some redundant. Holy cow, that messed that up big time. What? What is up with that? Okay. So there's certain there's certain things that I don't run into at times. Or expect to run into, that is, as I'm recording. Let's go. Well, that's odd. Do you see how it shifted? I didn't move that. I'm just gonna, okay, let's see if Illustrator's, pranking me here. Let's zoom in so we can see it and just pay attention here. I'm curious now. I'm gonna select everything minus eyes. Don't select that. And then I'm gonna go unite. Well, now it worked. I don't know how I moved it. Okay, user error, my bad. Okay, anyway, all that said, now we have it united, but notice we have redundant points because this is saying redundant. There's 113. So if I click this, it says, okay, we got rid of 4. So there's 4 redundant anchor points. Now it's at this point, I'll go to graphic styles. We'll turn it into the outline. So all these are just filled shapes. By the way, let's go to compound release. You might have to go to ungroup. Nope. So now all these are independent shapes that were once made from strokes. But notice you get a kind of a wonkiness here. That's because it's like Illustrator doesn't want to do the math. It's like they add these weird straight segments and some curves. So this is where I'll just go in with this scissor tool, cut them. I'll pull this all the way over here. This where, again, I'll go to a plugin called Extend Path Tool, part of Vector Scribe. And this, I'll just bring it out and, oh, wow. That's okay. We'll just go with it the way we have it. I didn't want this sharp anyway. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to determine kind of, I don't know. Let's figure this out together. So I think what I'm going to do, I don't want it coming out more than, I think, right about there. And just to make it a little more elegant, I'm going to put this at a curve, or an angle, that is. So maybe something like that. Then we'll select this. Then I'll chop it off. That's fine. This is where you can use the corner widget, and we'll get a curve. And I think that, you know what? That's too far out. I think it needs to be bigger. So we're going to go in a little further like that. Like that. Then you can select both, corner widget. I don't think I like that either. And this is my creative process. This is how I work. I usually make second guess myself until it feels right. That's the weird thing. That's the hardest part to teach, is if it doesn't feel right to you, more than likely it's not right. And that's what I've found for myself. Yeah, I think I like that better. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so now we can start having some fun because we have all of our elements. Let's establish the black and white art. So we'll just color this black. This is the base shape again. So if I send this to back, you can see all the shapes on top of it. I'll select all of these, minus the eyes and the back. All these interior shapes, these will just be white, floating on a sea of black like this. Select that, send it to back again. This one will just minus front, so you can see the black showing through. And then this is just a little circular island. So this is the point I get it at. And now we can start doing some coloring. Now, I explained that all these colors in my palette are part of my new document file. So anytime I create a file, these preload. These are almost never the exact colors I use in a given design, but it gives me a starting point. So in this case, I want to start doing some color exploration. And I immediately, sometimes I have in mind the colors I want to use. Now that I'm looking at it, I like that, but I don't like how sharp this is. So let's go ahead and do some rounding on this. And again, if you want to use the corner widget for this one, you could. So I think that looks better. It kind of goes, yeah, that looks better. I need to do that. Okay. So now we'll go back to coloring. I think on this one, I'm going to do this kind of blue color. And then this where I'll just experiment. Maybe I get some purple in this. I have, it's okay. I think it needs some yellow. Ooh, his beak needs to be kind of like a yellow. Bring some in on the wing. Like something like that, maybe. His eye I want to be white. I need teal. I want to add teal into this. That's not bad. Maybe bring some over here. I think we need to bring purple. Maybe make his, that's not, we need more yellow. So that looks pretty good. Now, the reason why I use my colors in my palette to establish, you know, at least start color exploration is because I'll always go in and edit them. And it makes it easier because like on this one, I think it needs to be, let's go to the value here, 150, 0, 35. I think it can be a darker and richer. So this is where I'll go into the global color itself, because then I don't even have to, actually, let's deselect that. I can just go into the global color I used. And on this one, we can just bump up. So I want to add more magenta. We'll add 20% more. I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow since I have yellow in other areas. That always works good when you do that with your colors, if it's printing in CMYK at least, like that. And then I don't think we need so much black. Something like this. Oh, okay. Okay, we won't do that. Let's, yeah, I know. Thank you. Let's do 20 instead and go, okay. I think that just looks a little richer, not so muddy. I think that's fine. I don't like the purple. The purple here, the color I'm using here, it just looks too faded. I want this to be more substantial, so we're going to crank this up, something like that. That's not bad. Let's go 25. Like, no. Let's see. We'll go 5. This needs to be 45. You know what? I think I'm going to go back to what let's start that again. Okay. I think I'm going to crank this up to 70. Yeah. That looks good. I want to darken it, so we'll go 5. Yeah. That looks better. That looks way better. Okay. I got those two colors backwards. Okay, on the, I think it's that color we use. Yeah, let's go ahead and click into this. This one's just too, once again, we have a lot of blue in this. I'm going to add a little blue and not so much red. Knock that down. And I don't want it so saturated. Let's do that. And I don't want black and yellow. It tends to look muddy. That looks good. I think that'll work. And I think we can kind of beef up the teal too. Now, if I open this up, I think there's a little too much blue. So we'll go 60. Oh, no, let's hit that. No. That looks horrible. Oops. Let's try. I'm going to go 70. I feel like my cat's watching me. Anytime I'm working, my cat comes into my studio. She'll just sit next to my desk and stare at me until I give her the time of day. She's very manipulative, like that. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Now, if I wanted to go a little darker, maybe I would add 5%. Oh, yeah, I like that. Okay, that works. So that's basically how I start doing color exploration. Now, I might want to try something else, so let's go ahead and duplicate this layer again. I don't want to destroy this, and we'll just call this color exploration like that. And now if I want to try something else, let's say instead of this blue color, if I go here, we go to color, and I don't want to edit the global color, otherwise it'll change my previous exploration. So I'll just select the color panel, and it shows me what the breakout is, and I can click this, and then I can adjust these colors. Now, dark blue is not bad, but maybe a dark green would work better. in which case, you know, we could punch in new numbers here. Magenta, no magenta. Yellow, I don't want super saturated. And then I want this kind of muted and dark. So this can be a dark green, kind of like that. That might be kind of cool. So we can go ahead and add this color in here. And again, if you want to make a global color, you can click global like that. Let's go ahead and edit the purple color. We'll just select all the areas of purple. We'll go here, we'll edit. And I think instead of purple, I want to have some kind of earth tone-y type colors or more organic type colors. So maybe we do like a, I don't know, a tan, a little bit of magenta in there, obviously yellow, and some black. We don't want it saturated, want it muted. That looks good, like that. Bring this down and turn it into a global color. Next one, I'll go ahead and change this. I think we want to get a muted type of kind of a dull blue of sorts. We'll go here and do the same. And anytime I say dull or muted, it just means less saturation. So the colors are dominating for teal or blue, so I want to diminish that quite a bit. And then I want to add black to mute it. If you kind of think, much like traditional painting media, it's going to help you. And I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and drop this in and, of course, change that to global. Okay, fine. We'll go 24. You can be picky with me. And we'll change that. And we'll go OK. And then the last one, the yellow, let's go ahead and select. By the way, I can select one and go Option F1. It's another shortcut I set up just to get all the same colors selected. Click on color, click here to edit. And we just want this no blue. I don't want a ton of red. Yellow, we'll diminish that to make it softer. We're creating a soft yellow of sorts. And I think that looks really good. We'll bring this down, double click into it, click global, and click OK. And I think that looks good. So that gives me another option for color. And that's usually how I do color exploration. But in reality, I usually spend, oh, wait a minute. I know one thing we can do. Let's go ahead and select this. And by the way, you have to have your art selected. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to click. Now that I saved those, I don't care if it changes this artwork. We're going to go to recolor feature. And this is kind of cool. The one thing about this that I really like is I usually go down here in this on the left. I believe it's saturation. And then on this one, I like making sure this is usually here. And then the next thing I do, and this is the part I've been going to a lot just to see what it gives me, because on some illustrations it does awesome. We're going to go to earth tone, just click on this. And ooh, that kind of looks cool. And then all you have to do is you can position it. Right now, if this is clicked on, it's linked, meaning all these nodes here are linked. Now I use 4 different colors. And this is showing me one more. So one of these aren't even really going to be that useful. But if you click here, you can rotate it and you can go in and out, stuff like this. And this, every time you do this, this will change like what is showing you over here. So that's pretty cool. Now, if you want to change it even more, you can unlink this and then you can move these nodes around. So let's say what's the pale blue. Maybe I want this to be orange. I can this kind of burnt orange over here. I can do that. Ooh, that does look kind of cool. And then let's say you want to change the color that's I forget what the soft yellowish type color. If you wanted that to be something else, then you could reposition that. So maybe I just pull this down a little bit like that. That's not bad. That looks kind of nice. Maybe I want this green to be more prominent, so I'll pull it over here to the green like that. But maybe this dark color, I don't like exactly this kind of almost like a charcoal color. Maybe we go to this brown and like, ooh, that looks kind of cool. Now, this one out here, if I move this around, you can see it doesn't really do anything. That's because we have 4 base colors. So this node is really kind of useless. So when it comes to color exploration, I spend a lot of time doing this. And it's at this phase that I tend to kind of set a project aside, and then I come back to it later and try something else. And I'll spend a lot of time doing that. And I'm not going to do that, but I am going to show you how I continue to do color exploration and show you how the final design ended up. So as I stated, I usually spend a lot of time doing color exploration. This is where we ended up with after we initially built it and started doing some color exploration. But let's go ahead and move over to this file because this shows you the tonal family that I first started with. And you saw me kind of work out those colors. And you've seen me do this in other movies where I have kind of this color palette brought out. And all these is squares that I create. Now, this goes back to my freehand days. I used Macromedia Freehand for 15 years. You could drag swatches from their swatches palette to the desktop and tile them together. And I've been doing it ever since. Even though I'm using Illustrator now longer, we're now in the 21st year of using Illustrator, I still do this because I like seeing value comparisons side by side. Now, you can just easily create a circle and then just copy it, and piece it together and create your own. Now, that takes a little bit of time because I do this all the time, literally for the last 21 years since moving from freehand. I want to show you how I cheat. And I actually need to update this script and create a new one that just does the tonal family thing. And I explained how I have new document profiles that have all these colors preloaded and other certain things preloaded, like my outlines and my graphic styles, etc. But I also have had custom scripts made to do things that I do a lot, like creating those tonal families. So if I go up here and I go File and I go New, this will create a new document. But instead of doing that, I'm going to go to Scripts and I'm going to go GS Setup New Doc. What is that? Well, GS stands for Glitchka Studios, and this is a script I had created for me, and I knew what I wanted it to do, but I don't do this kind of scripting for Illustrator. But I found somebody who actually does do the coding for that type of thing. And he was an engineer at Microsoft, of all people. And so I hired him. He's created all the scripts that I use on a daily basis. But I just want to show you this really quick. If I click on this, it's going to create a new document like this. Notice it creates my structure for my layering, sketch, build, temp, my X junk layer. But notice it also has a tonal family layer. So if I do this, you can see it creates all those boxes for me, so I don't have to recreate the wheel. So I'll be honest, when I'm doing this, I just run that script. I usually grab what I need. I might even rotate it before I copy it, and I copy it. Then I just close this. I don't need to save it. I go back to my file on this one I'm creating, and I paste it like this, and then I'll just position it wherever I want. And in this case, we'll start with this color, then it'll be this color, then we'll go here, and we'll go here. So I use that quite a bit just to make the process go faster. I just wanted to show you that because you see me do it a lot, and I realize I've never really shown that, but you might want to use it as well. So I've included that script in the exercise files for this content. So make sure to get the access to the exercise files and the link in the description below, and you can try that as well. At some point, I might showcase a movie that shows different scripts I use on a daily basis, but that's definitely one of them. So this is where it started out. Now, as I said previously, my exploration goes on quite a bit. So I did continue to do more color exploration. This was one brand palette. You know, I wanted this to be kind of earthy because frankly, I'm thinking this is going to be a mark for a like an app for bird watchers. And so I did this one. Then I said, well, maybe it needs a few more colors here to kind of work out the palette more. And then I thought, well, maybe I started thinking about blue again. Maybe I do blue. I'm going, no, that really doesn't fit. It needs to be nature kind of related. And brown's okay. But then I thought, well, maybe I just have it kind of monochromatic where it's different shades of green. As soon as I do this, I knew that was the colors I wanted to go for. So this is how I do additional color exploration. And this doesn't go fast. I have to literally look at it and think, try. And I didn't want to include all that in the movie. It'd just be way too long. So I didn't do that, but I do want to show you it. Now, another part of working with clients that I really enjoy that they really don't teach you this in art school is brand naming. Brand naming is so much fun. This is going to be an app for bird watchers. So the way I do brand naming is just the way I do it. And I'm going to share it with you because it actually works pretty well. And that is, I just start thinking about the theme, in this case, bird watching and everything related to it. You might do a keyword, write down keywords for it. And then I go to GoDaddy.com. If I can't get a domain, I don't even want that to be part of the process because what's the point if you have domains? And so I just start typing in this case, brand naming for this bird watching app. So I came up with a bird watcher, different ways to spell watcher, bird find, bird finder. Oh, it looks like I have bird finder on here twice. I didn't even notice that. Bird spotter. Oh, I have bird spotter on. What? I have a couple. Okay. This is what I have. Okay, I have a couple spots where, okay, I have a redundant thing. Oh, no. This is bird view. Okay, bird spotter. Okay, I just flipped it. By the way, I guess I might as well tell you, I'm somewhat dyslexic. So I usually see the wrong words at times, and it trips me up like this. Ironically, I love writing and I love word wrangling. So that's why I like doing brand naming because it's kind of doing both. And you're trying to imbue the name to go good with the brand mark we came up with. So these were all names I came up with, but I run them all through GoDaddy. And if there isn't a .com available or a specific domain, sometimes I might suggest a .net if like a .com isn't available. I've done that at times, but most of the time I want .com because that's what most people think of. On this one, all of these names, believe it or not, were available. Now notice on some of these, the ones I changed it to because there is a .app, which I've seen a couple iOS applications have their domain as .app. So I use that on a couple of these, but I think all of these would work really well. Now, for obvious reasons, being people love, I kind of gravitated towards the kind of the bird love options down here, and both of those are available. So that's kind of what I move forward with. And this is once I lock in a name for a client. By the way, I had one client who is HVAC company, and the name of his company is like DF Mechanical. When he approached me, and I go, "What's that mean?" Well, DF is DFC Mechanical, and I go, "Well, what's that stand for?" Well, DF is my name, Dan Foss, and C is company. So Dan Foss Company Mechanical. I know. He realized it wasn't the greatest name. And I said, yeah, we need to do some name exploration. It only took me 5 minutes to hit on a name for him where I go, there's no way this domain is available. It was One Stop. I'm going One Stop because he said his clients referred to him as a one-stop shop. Well, you're not a shop, but I like One Stop. One Stop Pro. And I go, there's no way that .com is available, only to find out nobody owned it. So I called him immediately. I said, you got to secure this. This is like a franchise-worthy name. And he did. And he's grown his company a lot bigger since then. So this is where I go to typefaces, working out what typeface I'm going to use with the brand name I'm going to use. We ended up going with Bird Lover, not Bird Love. And out of all of these typeface designs, the one I liked the most was this one. I like the curves in it. I think it goes well with the mark. So that's the one we're going to go with. Now, when I use a raw typeface, I don't want, this is Chalet, by the way, made by House Industries. I don't want to just use the font right out of the box because anybody can use it. And then all of a sudden you have whoever using the exact same typeface and it's going to kind of look like yours. So I always try to customize it. This is the raw typeface typed out, and the overlay is how I modified it, where I went in and I adjust the kerning. A lot of fonts are really bad in kerning, but I also kind of broke some of those typophile rules of, you have cap height, then you have X height, etc. And I lowered the profile of the D, and I shortened the footer of the L just to improve it. So when it's all said and done, this is what the logo type for Bird Lover is. This is when I start pairing it up with the mark to create all the final brand assets. I usually do color. I provide that in CMYK, spot, and RGB. I work it out how it's going to work on a dark colored or photographic background as shown here in the center. I do a simplified version, not for every brand I work on, but for this one, I thought it made sense, where it's dark on a light colored background. And then, of course, black and white shown below. At times, I'll use what's called a brand board just to kind of help the client capture the vision of how this could be used in the real world. And this, of course, features the primary brand mark, the horizontal brand mark, how it could be used again on a photographic background, how they can use it in a simplified form, in this case for merchandise. I usually create brand patterns like this one showing here. Maybe it's promotional material, how it works in kind of that context with the theme that they're all about, which is bird watchers. And of course, since it's an app, I work out how an app icon could look. I like doing brand patterns. I usually give them multiple ones. So this was one of them. This is a second version where it's a lighter color and the brand colors with the darker color for nice contrast. Sometimes you want tone on tone. We did that as well, so it could be subtle. And then that's how I usually pitch ideas. Now, if I'm working with a client and I do several ideas, I'll try to work out a system like this for each one of those ideas. I usually have them look at 6 initial designs, focus on the 2 they like most, then I flesh those out to this degree, and then they have to make a choice. Along the way, I'll make edits if and when necessary. So we started with our rough sketch, didn't have to really redraw this. And because we were building in geometric forms, we came out with a pretty compelling final design. Now, the methodology in terms of color exploration, setting up brand assets, presenting brand boards, and helping my clients see the full potential and how a design can be used in real world helps them to embrace a new vision for their company, service, or product. Now, of course, this whole project was merely to demonstrate how I work with my clients and presenting design directions to them. There is no real Bird Lover brand, but the methodology and strategic creative thinking and services I shared are principles you can add to your own workflow and use with your own clients. But if you're an app developer and an avid bird lover needing a brand identity, give me a call and let's talk, because I have one that would work for you. The exercise files for each of the People of Process movies can always be accessed via a link in the description below. A big thank you to those who have and to those who are also who have also become members as well. You help me to continue making content for this channel, and I appreciate your support. Until next time, thank you for watching People Love Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you improve your own creative process.